All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday. It is Friday, April 18th, and this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and probably an abbreviated Good Friday episode for the people today. I don't have too much to talk about. Obviously, baseball in full swing into their series with Auburn, but at the time of this recording, we were unable to get a live reaction to it. So we won't be discussing any updates on the baseball series or softball series between Auburn and LSU. We know those are going on right now, but to be fully transparent, we recorded these episodes ahead of time so we could have Friday off, and then we will discuss the full series on Monday. So today's episode, we got some baseball news in terms of injuries, and we're going to be talking about straight from the horse's mouth from Schlossnagle himself about those baseball injuries and the severity of those injuries. And then also we'll end the conversation with a little bit of what is it going to take for football to get over that Final Four hump in the college football series of the college football playoffs and win a national title, whether it be this year, next year. Can they do it this year? Do they have the team to do it this year? Jake and I is going to talk about all of that coming up. Again, probably an abbreviated version for you today on this Good Friday. We'll get you out of here pretty quickly. But Jake, let's start off with some baseball injury news.
Yeah, Schlossnagle was talking to the media earlier this week, kind of just stressing the importance of them getting healthy as it gets closer to the postseason. Despite their successful season, they've actually had a lot of injuries. And got some pretty positive news, I would say, overall, with the news about Max Bailu possibly being back in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
I mean, that's before postseason play starts.
Yeah, I believe that's before, right around the SEC tournament play. So
yep.
That would be really, really big for the Texas Longhorns baseball team to get him back. Probably their best hitter on the team. Then you got Adrian Rodriguez, who's been battling injury. He's played here and there, mainly in a designated hitter spot. And Sloss basically just said he's been really banged up, been playing in limited capacity, and, they're continuing to work on him to get him better. But the fact he's playing even in a limited capacity tells you they're probably working on trying to get him as good as he can go, come postseason time. He's another guy you're going to need.
Yep.
Ethan Mendoza got banged up on Saturday's game. Did he play in the UT?
He sat out against.
Yeah, he sat out, which you would expect if it's even a minor injury. You're not going to play him in that game unless he's mostly good to go. So I haven't heard any further update on that. Obviously, when this comes out, we'll know. But
a little bit more. But I imagine they would sit him out maybe one or two of these games if he can get in on Saturday. Maybe he plays Saturday, and at that point, do you just sit him out for the series? If you've won Thursday, Friday, and you've already got this series locked down, do you risk putting him out there on a Saturday game?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends of the severity. We didn't really get much information on the severity of it.
You don't have a lot of time to rehab.
Yeah, and a lot of times baseball injuries are annoying to the body. It like an oblique, which we're very familiar with here in Austin. And
we get Dr. Solis to come on and talk a little bit about these baseball guys.
Yeah, that would be fun to bring him back on and talk about how baseball injuries kind of differ from other sports, because I do feel like baseball injuries are quite a bit different.
Yeah, I'll put it on my task to reach out to him.
Yeah, that'd be fun to get his perspective, just because baseball injuries always seem to be nagging. And the thing about it, it's like golf. I think that's probably the most comparable. In a way, though, you can probably get a little bit more severe, but baseball's a very muscle memory sport, and so you get something that throws that off, and especially if you're a pitcher, when you're at bat, whatever that is, just a small little tweak can throw you off, throw your timing off, throw your power off, throw the coordination off, and so baseball injuries, when they nag on, can also really affect your level of play. So hopefully Texas can get as healthy as they can possibly get, for postseason time, and for these next, several series that are left, because they probably still have a little bit more work to do to lock up securing a home spot in the regional. And then obviously I think the goal for this team is to host a super regional as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always given baseball players grief about their injuries. I'm like, look, you have a stub toe and you're out for 3 months. It seems like your injuries take forever to heal from. All of them are long-term rehabilitation injuries that just take forever. And so, whereas a football player, he'll go back out there with a concussion. But if a baseball player got a concussion, he might be out for the entire season. So I've always kind of thrown those jabs. But you're right. The reason why they tend to be that way is because you have no time to rehab because so many games are being played. But also in the same term of a lot of them are muscle injuries and strains and pulls and things of that nature. And so anyway, but yeah, that's kind of an injury update. Hopefully we get some of those guys back. Texas has been making this run and is now the number 1 team in the country without a couple of their best players on their roster. Just put that into perspective. And then also you throw in some nagging injuries of guys like Galvan, who have missed a little bit of time and has now returned back to action. This Texas team hasn't played a lot of baseball together as a fully healthy squad really all season long. And so still keeping the ship afloat. And hopefully, like you said, come SEC tournament play, super regional play, we'll get a fully healthy roster out on the field. And hopefully everybody else from this point on can remain healthy.
Yeah, health is going to be probably one of the things we pay the most attention to here down the stretch. Because if you're not healthy come playoff time, the season may not end up mattering that much, no matter how good you were. I think of the Dallas Stars when I say that, with how their season has gone. We don't know how the playoffs are gone. They still have a very good chance. But I just think of how great of a regular season.
Cowboys in there, Jake. You can throw the Dallas Mavericks in there. You can throw in just about any Dallas sports team.
Should we throw, the Dallas Mavericks in there? You brought this up for yourself.
It's not injuries that the Mavericks have had issues with.
Who cares what the fans and Dirk Nowitzki think?
Yeah,
Dirk. Who cares about Dirk?
The GM's job, Jake, is to look out for the Dallas Mavericks, not the fans or Dirk, who is actually part of the Dallas Mavericks organization still.
No, he's not part of it. Still, he doesn't play for him. He doesn't matter. He's a pointless, old, washed guy.
Keep my Hall of Famer's name out your fucking mouth, in the words of Will Smith. Yeah, dude. If anybody doesn't know what we're referencing, Nico Harrison, the GM to the Mavericks, the devil himself, has had a sit-down one-on-one private time, a little mommy-daughter time with the media, so with no camera, so no one can grab
selected
clips.
Media. There was key players from the Dallas media who have covered the Mavericks their whole career
that were not invited,
but they asked tough questions that were not invited.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to bring in recording of devices, phones, anything. It wasn't taped. It was all written word. The most shady thing ever.
Cowardly snake move you could ever possibly
that didn't even need to be done.
Blind.
No one asked them to do that.
No one asked them to do a tribute video, Jake. Nobody asked them to trade Luka Doncic. And see, you're gonna get me on this thing, dude. Nobody asked them.
They got 50K
and have t-shirts that had t-shirts that said "Thank you, Luka" or whatever it said in Slovenia for the whole stands to watch. While he hasn't even sat in his suite yet because fans know where his seats are, and they would destroy his seats. They would just throw popcorn and hot sauce and all sorts of their beer on him and all sorts.
He was hiding in the tunnel during the Lakers game.
Anybody, and then kicking fans out. He doesn't care about Here's my thing: the fans. Without fans, we don't have any sport whatsoever, because if you don't have a following, you can't get it to take off and have support, and people financially support you that way. And I mean, look at the struggles of the WNBA and other athletic professional athletic associations, organizations that have completely crumbled because they don't have fans. So if you're going to crap on the fans because you're looking out for the team and you're not worried about what the fans say, well, guess what? You may not have fans, which means you may not have a franchise, which means you may not have a job at the end of the day.
You
Basketball's
shouldn't.
not going anywhere, but the Dallas Mavericks might be going somewhere, and they may not take you with them, Nico.
He shouldn't have a job. Yeah.
He says he stands by the decision still.
I'm not.
I want one of these guys.
But
that
Tanner,
makes these
defense wins
decisions.
championships. He said that like 10 times during the interview.
Yeah, well, Dallas is a 10 seed right now. So, in what is a sorry excuse for a playoff, which, by the way, the play-in for the NBA is just a sorry excuse for GMs and owners to say, oh, look, fans, we're this close to making the playoffs, or we did make the postseason. We played more basketball than the rest of the NBA. Yeah, well, that's what happens whenever 2/3 of your entire league make the postseason. It doesn't take a whole lot. I think the last place team in the East is like 15 games below 500.
I had the goal of, I said before we started recording these, I was like, I'm going to poke the bear with because, the interview stuff had just happened and it was really bad. Then I'd kind of forgotten about it until you said the Dallas Mavericks. You brought this on yourself.
I did bring it up myself, but yeah, then you're going to trade for an injury-prone old big man
and $50K. Don't forget that $50K.
Yeah, that $50K is gonna change the Mavericks organization forever. I think I needed a little vent session, but anyway, Jake,
it's only gotten worse since it happened.
It has, and the fact that the Lakers are now the 3 seed and they're primed to make a deep run, and no one takes the Rockets seriously. So it's the Lakers and Oklahoma City Thunder. Those are the 2 players in the West. Let's just be real. The Denver Nuggets, they're already decided, oh, we're going to fire our coach 12 days before the playoffs because we don't want him to make a run into the playoffs. So they're tossing the season.
We don't want
out.
him to win our second ever championship, the first of which he won.
Yeah, which that news made no sense.
Further, just again,
the NBA is
so hard to like. It's so hard to like today's NBA, and I try, and I hate to sound like an old man, but man. It was once Wemby went down this year and then Luka got traded. I was like, all right, I'll pick it up next year when Wemby's good. And I was mad because if you're going to trade Luka, the Spurs have like 12 picks over the next 3 years. Would have given all of them. They would have given at least 9 of them for Luka.
Yeah, without a doubt they would have.
And then you'd be a Luka. You could still root for Luka.
I could easily be a Spurs fan. Actually, I already am a Spurs fan. I forgot that
we're waiting for next year.
We're starting officially next year. I'm in a transition.
We're on to next year.
Yeah, we're on.
No Wembanyama, no point in carrying.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, dude, did you see the French chick who got drafted number 2 in the WNBA? She's 6'6" and can just dunk it easily. She's from France. She's the female version of Wemby.
I wonder if we're going to start to see more of the, some of the foreign countries in women's basketball have been having to catch up to the US.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're going to start to see them really start to catch up and see more of them come in.
I mean, if you did a 4 nations in the NBA, do you think the USA would win at the NBA level if you did, even if it was just an international USA tournament or all the international players, maybe not from their country, but you get Giannis, Luka, Jokic all playing on the same team against USA stars.
Now I would say it would be fun, but none of the players would try or care.
Right.
It's not like the NHL where they were playing Stanley Cup level hockey
intensity, right?
Like still one of the most amazing things I've seen in professional.
But I would like to see that. I would like to see that
because I
versus the world as the All-Star game.
I think I would probably favor the world team. I think by a decent margin.
Olympics is different because obviously they're playing for their individual countries. But if you put them
even in the Olympics, France was close. Steph Curry the devil, as the France commentators said.
Yeah.
Which was probably the most exciting basketball NBA professional basketball game I've watched in the last decade.
Yeah. Didn't the Spurs win within the decade? Or was it 2014? I think it was 2014.
It might have been 15. Okay. 15. It feels like it's been longer than a decade because Spurs have been so bad since that last run that they went from winning 50 to 60 games a year to
being in the lottery,
losing 50 to 60 games a year.
Hey, did you see that Chris Paul was the oldest player ever to play all 82 games in a regular season? That's actually kind of impressive.
That actually, especially I mean, he's battled injuries pretty often during his
He
career.
played all 82 games this year for the Spurs.
Did not help with the winning aspect, but
Well, he never
even before,
has, no matter where he's gone. He's never
true,
been
but
a
he was
winner.
much better than Tony Parker, as I was told when we were
That's
both
what we
in
were
their
told
prime.
growing up. Yeah. So,
God.
all right, Jake, we got
Don't
way
get me started. I
Yeah.
don't have time for 2
You
NBA
broke my
rants.
bear. Now I get to poke yours. All right. No, let's go ahead, wrap up the show real quick. We've got a little segment on here. What's it going to take for the Texas Longhorns to win a national championship in football? Is there a move that they can make in the transfer portal, whether it be this year, next year? Is there moves that they need to make to get them over the hump?
It's tough because I do think this roster is really good, but it's also a little scary because a lot of it's unproven. You know,
Here's my thing on that, Jake. Isn't every roster unproven until they prove it?
yeah, but I would say this year that's pretty true because most of the top contenders are truly unproven rosters. Because not many rosters returned a ton of starting talent.
Yeah.
You know, you look at last year, Ohio State was like without a doubt the best roster going into the
They were
season.
my preseason pick to win it all because
They were a lot of people's preseason pick to win it all. Is that, you know, and Oregon was kind of the other popular pick. You know, Texas was up there, but Ohio State was like a clear favorite. I don't think there's a clear favorite this next year because so many teams lost that top talent. So Texas could be right there. The thing that would make me feel really confident in saying that they might, you know, be in a really good spot to get over that hump, because I never want to say they will get over that hump. Injury too much plays in to a season to ever fully predict that. Even for an Ohio State last year, who did have their struggles at times.
Yeah.
I think if a elite defensive tackle, and this is not likely to happen, but if a really proven defensive tackle went into the portal and Texas got it, I would feel much more confident, because last year I felt really confident about the defensive tackle position because I felt Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton were proven commodities that I fully expected to take a leap similar to Byron Murphy and Devondre Sweat. They did. I don't feel that way about any of the defensive tackles on this team, making that type of leap and being that level of an impact player. It's probably even over the offensive line, probably my biggest concern on the team. Left guard, right tackle would probably be the next closest. I believe Cole Hudson's going to be a stud at center. I believe Trevor Gooseby is going to be a stud at left tackle. DJ Campbell is a stud at right guard, only going to get better. Brandon Baker, completely unproven, very little snaps. Have heard good and bad things about the spring with him. And then Neto sounds like he's going to be great in run blocking, but the pass blocking may be a kind of learn and progress thing, and that's scary when that's your blind side guard.
Well,
So,
I also like the idea though of having Arch's scrambling ability with this offensive line. If you put Quinn behind this offensive line, I think Texas has a worse year.
yeah,
I
right.
think with Arch's skill set and his ability to extend the pocket and run around, with a less experienced offensive line now, as talented as they are, less experienced offensive line than Quinn had last year, we have the right quarterback to lead this team with some of its deficiencies on offense to make up for that.
Yeah, the key to me will be wide receiver room. You know, those top DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo need to be healthy.
And again, we don't really know how Arch likes to use the tight end. But we know Quinn loved the tight end, whether it be JT Sanders or Gunnar Helm. And so I'm really curious about that tight end position. And I would really like to see a tight end step up in the transfer portal this year and make an immediate impact. I'm talking like day one starter.
Yeah, I mean, I fully think Washington's going to be it's very unfortunate he got hurt in the spring and has missed basically the majority. I mean, all of the spring full pad practices. That really hurts. And I know, I think it's Amari Winston has looked really good. They're really high on him, but he's a freshman. And so I think tight end would be, and the second time you reminded me of that, because Texas has been so good at tight end last couple of years, it's almost an afterthought. But yeah, I would say defensive tackle, getting a defensive tackle and a tight end would make me feel really good. And then maybe one experienced depth type spot at offensive line, and then potentially maybe one more outside receiver if possible. But defensive tackle and tight end would be number one, number two on my list.
And I wouldn't mind. I think we're good at safety, to be completely honest, especially kind of what they're going to do with Derek Williams, Jelani McDonald, Michael Taff. But corner, I'd like to maybe see a little something more at corner. I'm curious what that position's going to look like. I know you got Gilbo coming in. You know, we've heard some things about Gilbo that he might be making kind of that Jahdae Barron transition a little bit, you know, so that I'm very excited about. Kobe Black, also very excited about kind of what he's going to be able to step in and contribute. We obviously have Manny Muhammad, who's going to be your number one, you know, stud on the outside. But we've had question marks about Manny Muhammad's his ability to commit to the tackling game. And
Have heard great things about that from spring.
yeah, so maybe somebody got in his ear and flipped his mindset a little bit.
It's a money year. It's a money year.
It's a money
for
year.
Manny Muhammad.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
I mean, this is
A
him
diamond
trying to
earring
get into that
changed-
first round of the draft.
Yeah, a diamond earring changed that a little bit, but yeah. So,
Well,
but
and I will just add to your point on the corner. What will also kind of matter for that is how the star position turns out, because I know Wardell Mack is one of the guys that is working in at the star position. Jordan Johnson Rubel's another one. Wardell Mack's one I'm really interested to see, because I think he's going to play next year. I think he's too good not to have on the field. And I think it's going to come at either corner or star or both. And I'm very interested to see where he turns out. But corner's one of those positions you can never have too many.
No.
You never can.
same with wide receiver. I don't think you can ever have too much talent there. But I do like this roster, Jake, and I actually think, looking at the college football landscape, and I kind of go down the list of teams. I mean, I think Michigan, depending on what Bryce Underwood looks like, I think they could be another player in the Big Ten to kind of compete with Ohio State. I think Ohio State doesn't rebuild. They just reload. It depends on what their reload looks like. Alabama, they've got questions at quarterback. They've got three guys right now, all 5 stars coincidentally, but 3 quarterbacks that they don't know who the starter is going to be yet. And, you know, they're halfway through their spring ball. So there's going to be a lot of unproven, a lot of unknowns. And is it going to be who's going to lead Georgia out there? You know, who's going to there's a lot of question marks, a lot of places with new quarterbacks, where Texas, I believe, probably has the best quarterback returning, even though he was a backup going into the year. And that's a huge part of a returning roster, where you don't have to put a question mark by the quarterback position compared to the teams I just named. Oregon, again, they lose Bo Nix, you know, and so it's like who's going to fill in for or not Bo Nix, I'm sorry.
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. And so they switch him out so often that I have no idea. But, you know, but whether it be transfers or whoever, you know, so I think solidifying the quarterback, having the defense that Texas is going to have next year, I don't even know if technically we need to add anybody that will take us over the hump. I'm going to have Texas as a title contender going into next year, and maybe a favorite going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a contender. I don't know if there will be a favorite in my eyes.
I mean,
going
in Vegas,
into the season,
I'll be curious what Vegas has to say, unless Vegas already has odds.
I mean, Vegas always has odds out there, but I won't really care what the odds say until transfer portal's all done.
Right.
Texas is going to be high in the. I mean, Texas would be in the odds with Tom Herman. They would just be somewhere, because you can never have the odds too crazy for a team that, you know, has a bunch of talent on the roster, just because people will bet it, and if it hits, it's a big loss for a casino.
Sure.
One thing casinos don't do: lose money.
Nope.
So odds can be a little deceiving, but I imagine those odds you're gonna have an Ohio State up there, you're gonna have Texas, you're gonna have I think Alabama will be up there. And I'm very interested to see how the SEC shakes up. And I think some people might sleep a little bit too much on an Ole Miss even. Florida is going to be much more dangerous.
I think Auburn. I think Hugh Freeze and Auburn is going to actually have a pretty decent.
That's one that could sneak up, especially when you think about last year. They were bad record-wise, but they weren't that bad on the field in a way.
Yeah.
So it'll
A&M's
be
gonna be
OU's
improved.
probably gonna be better. A&M is, I mean, if you talk about returning talent, A&M's one of the tops in the country as far as returning talent. Now that talent has to improve and get better, or they'll go 8-4 again, which I think we all root for here on the All In Horns
I don't even root
community.
them to go. I don't even root them to go 7-5.
No,
I root for them to
8-4
go
is just
8-4.
great for the meme. But you know, it's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm already ready. I'm excited for baseball playoffs, College
I'm
World
so ready for
Series.
football.
When College World Series ends, it's going to be the longest couple months of my life until football starts.
I'm so ready for football. I thought I was excited when Quinn Ewers transferred to Texas, and it was going to be his first year starting and kind of the second year under Steve Sarkisian, and I was just super excited for that type of football. But man, going into a season with Arch Manning as your quarterback and coming off of back-to-back Final Four appearances, just about as ready as you can be for college football, and especially for Texas. So, all right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a good rest of your Good Friday. Have a happy Easter. Spend time with your family, with your kiddos. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday next week, and we'll drop these episodes at noon, and we'll continue our daily scheduled programming as usual. For Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. This has been your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.